Hello YouTube, Gustavo Uribe here, and I am doing a video about music harmony because actually had a comment a while ago, maybe a month ago or 2 months ago about doing a video about harmony, and it wasn't until now, couldn't sleep, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, man, I technically do have a master's in music composition from Cal Arts, and I can't teach you harmony, bro, because it's really complicated. But I can teach you some, like, two or three things, some tricks that if you actually follow my advice, you'll learn it real quick, to be honest with you. Things that I did, that some keys that when I first started going to music school, because I was making beats in high school and stuff. I didn't know theory. I was taking piano lessons a little bit, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And then I decided to go to study music in college. And when I got there, it's a little bit of story, a little bit of rant, but just hear me out, guys, because this is important. When I first started studying music in school, it was at Santa Barbara City College, and I failed like 2 years, failed 2 years of music theory and harmony, not harmony, musicianship. It took me like 2 years to finally get my A's and my B's in those classes and pass those courses. I failed them like 4 times, like 2 times each. And I was going into school, I was going into class with some guys that were like in bands, and they wanted to, learn music. And then there was some other guys that were playing violin since they were like 5, or piano since they were 7 or whatever. And they were good. They were good musicians, but they focused on sight singing and baroque baroque music like Bach, SATB. And that's what they did for 2 years. So a lot of the guys in the rock bands or whatever, they left. They're like, fuck this shit. And I could see why, because the way that they taught music was not relevant to what they wanted to do. They should have studied jazz, to be honest. And because jazz, I realized that jazz is just classical music on steroids. Jazz is contemporary classical music, because I actually studied a lot of music. And in the Baroque, they were like jazz players, and they had something called figured bass, which is like chord symbols but in Baroque style. And they were supposed to be able to improvise on the keyboard. And there was actually a lot of treatises on counterpoint and music writing. Music comes from the monks in the church. It comes from the medieval monks. Oh, and then they had another dude go, oh, and then with those lines, contrapunctus, counterpoint. And a lot of monks started writing books on it. And believe it or not, I took a class in UCSB on counterpoint, and I failed that too, like a lot. And I just couldn't. I sucked at it, and I actually like the homework. Like I even bought this like software. It was like called, I don't know, Practica whatever, and I was like trying to like do homework on the software, trying to learn, because I just wasn't getting it. I kept getting the things wrong. But the irony is that my homework that I would do, they would like play my homework assignments, and I'm like, damn, that's soulful. I was like, oh damn, I got some soul in there. And my music was really fucking good, to be honest. And the people liked it, even my homework assignments, because I had that flavor. But I wasn't in the rules of those counterpoint rules. And to make this point, as I know if I'm ranting, this video will save your life, guys. You'll learn a lot. what I learned is that because they had different rules of counterpoint, and depending on the years, different practices, they would have different rules of counterpoint. So my point is that the theory is reflective of the actual music. It's just a way to explain how music is being created at some point in time. That's all theory is. And when it really comes down to learn harmony, okay, is it all comes back to the Baroque, which is crazy because I studied jazz and then I actually went to UCSB. I studied with Dr. Earl Stewart. He wrote the book. He signed it for me. He was a great man. And I studied with him for a year. And that's when my harmony understanding went like, I became Bruce Lee Cholos, to be honest with you guys. Vernacular Harmony. And the sad thing is I don't think you can buy this book anymore. I don't know. I looked for it on Amazon and I didn't see it. But my point is, what I'm trying to say is that before I studied music, a note was just a note, a chord was just a chord. And then I studied it and I was like, nah, it was a major chord, a minor chord, a diminished chord, an amended chord, a seventh chord, a ninth chord, an add sixth chord, a sus chord, 11th chord, a 13th chord, tritone substitution. I didn't even know what the hell that was. And after I studied music, it was all the same shit to me. It was all the same shit to me. I was doing the same shit I was doing in high school, making beats. But now I'm doing covers. I can do covers. I can learn any song I want, whatever. And I got a lot of music coming out that's not out yet, that's in the works. That's waiting to be released. So thanks for listening. Now I'm gonna give you the what you really need to do just to learn harmony. But I wanted to tell you that story because you have to know. You have to know that story. It really comes down to the Baroque. And as you can see here, SATB, soprano, alto, tenor, bass. And this is a 4-part harmony, 4 voices, okay? It evolved from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, right? And this was like the standard. And this right here, what I'm illustrating, is counterpoint. This is contrary motion. So the outer voices need to contour, and the inner voices just kind of whatever. And how these notes line up, these are the chords. That's the chords right there. That's what a chord is, guys. That's what a chord is. It's the equation, the equal sign of what notes are stacked up against what notes. That's literally what it is. And I know some people are like, no shit, Sherlock. I know. But in every every pop jazz song, that's all it is. And when you see those chords on top, all they are doing is describing what's in the bass and what are these other voices. It's just a guide. So you could take those chords and you could omit certain notes if you want, but as long as you have the right note in the bass and enough of these notes to clearly mark the harmony, the structure, that's all you need. You can make different arrangements. Instruments can play different parts. That's the whole point. You can make a symphony, an orchestra out of this. Like literally. Arranging, that's what all it is. It's like, okay, what instrument does what? When you're making beats, like, okay, You don't really need to know exactly the chords, que la chingada, like what kind of chord. I'll tell you what it is. But the point is, it's like, oh, this is what you're doing. So you understand the why. Why is this? Why do I have to learn harmony? All you're doing is understanding the bass movement, the inner voices, and the contour. So when you see those chords, it doesn't matter what notes are what. So what I'm trying to say, there's a lot of videos out there on YouTube. They're like, how to make a melody with this chord and what of this chord progression and blah 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 blah. All that stuff, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. Because all you have to do is understand what the bass and all the other stuff. Because as I will explain right now, harmony is very complicated because you can get away with a lot of stuff, and I'll show you how. But before I do that, step number 2, if you want to learn harmony, this right here are just a bunch of letters going up. A flat to G, whatever. So what I did when I was going through City College, Santa Barbara City College, is I had to take tests, and the professor, he was like, hey, you should learn chord spelling. All you guys should know chord spelling. And when I was taking the test, a lot of people would be like looking on the keyboard and like, okay, that's a C major chord. Okay, that's a diminished chord. And they didn't know at the top of their head, oh, C major, C, E, G, or C minor, C, E flat, G. They didn't know these chords at the top of their head, or like, F, A, C, F, A flat, C, that's F minor chord. They couldn't name a chord like that. They couldn't spell it out. So what I did is I took his advice to heart, and I put this notes like that, and I just spelled out the chords like that, like Bart Simpson. Just spell it out, spell it out, spell it out, spell it out. And I'd have notebook, like just full of chords to memorize the chord spelling. So this is what you should do. You watching this video, if you want to learn harmony, first you have to memorize the chords, the chord spellings. That's essential. So anytime you look at a lead sheet, so you like something like this, you see how these chords are right there? If it says C major 7, then you need to know what a C major 7 is. Right? C major 7. So that would be C, E, G, B. Yeah. C dominant 7 would be C, E, G, B flat, right? And then F major 7. You got to know what's in that. F, A, C, E. And they're all white notes. There's no accidentals. Notice right here he has some sharps right there. He said NC. NC is a non-chord tone. So that G sharp is not in a F major 7 chord. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's just the relationship. All you're doing is marking the counterpoint. That's all chords are. So what I'm saying is, if you do this and you memorize the chords, memorize all of the basic chords: major, minor, augmented, diminished. Okay? Then you can add the sevenths: dominant 7th, minor 7, major 7. Those are the basic chords. Okay? And then, half diminished, fully diminished. In jazz, they call it, what do they call it? Something minor flat 5. That's what they call it. That's what they call a half diminished chord. If I'm not mistaken, I'm a little rusty right now, but they have in jazz, they have a little bit different, it's a little bit different than classical. I mean, not like super different, but I mean, it's like they have a lingo to it. They have a jazz lingo to it, and what they would describe as a tritone substitution in classical music would be like I forgot what it is, like an Italian six or a French six or a Neapolitan, or they have different words to describe the harmonic movement. But it doesn't really matter because, like I said, it all comes down to this: it either goes up or goes down, or these go up or these go down, and how they move. That's the chord progression. That's the chord progression. So in songs, if they move up and they move back down, they move up, that might just be two chords, or they might go somewhere else and somewhere else and somewhere else and somewhere else, and that. And then how the bass is related. So another way to think about it is you could have the same bass note play, and you can have the other stuff on top move, and this bass note could still be part of the other chords or whatever, vice versa on top. And then I'll show you what I mean. Now this is the trick. Now I'm gonna tell you some advanced tricks though. So that's just basic stuff so you can get started, because you have to memorize the chord spellings. Now, this is the advanced stuff. The advanced stuff is this, all right? The church modes. I'm forgetting Iodian. Oh man, I'm kind of rusty. No, sorry. Ionian, Phrygian, whatever. Okay, so the point is you gotta know like those church modes, right? Those kind of matter, but they don't really matter. But they kind of matter because watch. This is the trick. The chords and the scales are the same thing. And that was the trick in this book. That was the secret sauce to understanding extensions and advanced chords. Extensions meaning if you want to do 11s, 9s, 11s, 13. Here's the trick. 9s, 11s, 13s, they are the same as 2, 4s, and 6s. Add 2, add 4, add 6. They're the same notes. They're just on top. They're just stacked on top. So depending on where those notes are in the counterpoint will determine how they are described as a chord. So if it's add 6, or is it add, what did I say? Oh boy, 11th, 11th, 9th, 11th, 2, 4, 6, yeah, or is it 13? You know what I mean? Sorry, I'm a little rusty, guys. I'm going off the cuff here. So my point is, with those church modes, if you just, like, let's say you take a Aeolian, right, which is a minor scale. They call it minor scale. People call it minor scale or Aeolian. If you stack the notes on top as thirds, you can get those chord extensions. So a ninth, like I said, 9th, 11th, 13th in the Aeolian mode. Do you understand what I'm saying? The scale, it's kind of, I don't know if I'm making sense to you guys or not, but like, let's just say that, okay. Instead of writing the notes like a scale, you're stacking them and in thirds. And those are chord scales. There's a relationship in those. So when you get like a minor 7th chord or a minor 11th, whatever, those really like advanced chords, you can also describe them as scales. So that was a breakthrough for me. I was like, oh, because what is that? Why does that matter? That means like you can literally play anything on the bottom and anything on top, because anything on top can be an extension. is what I'm saying. And if it's not an extension, if it's not in that chord scale, then all you have to do is resolve it by a half step, pretty much. That's all it is. And sometimes in some of my compositions, I was writing a lot of sonatas at UCSB. I was doing a lot of sonatas. That's what I was doing. And I would do a lot of unresolved chord tone, a lot of unresolved non-chord tones, and it would be like dissonant, it would be like clang 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 clang. It would be like a way to kind of make it chromatic without going like too outside the tonal system, and that was a way to do it. So that's, you could just understand the style by how they use the harmony. Okay. So another thing to understand too is that there's not just stacking by thirds. That's like the regular way. But there's also chordal quintal, where you could stack them by fours and fifths. So you can get some interesting harmonies like that. And then of course you can literally do anything you want, as long as you do this and you memorize the chord spellings, then you will understand. I was like, okay, I know this sounds cool. Why does it sound cool? Why does it not sound cool? Should I resolve this non-chord tone? Should I keep it in there? Should I move these inner voices around? Do I need these inner voices? Can I omit the fifth? Should I just add a third to harmonize it? Is it too vague? There's like depending on how these are written, that's how you can make arrangement decisions. Like which instruments, I'll give you an example, like horns or something. Horns sound good on thirds and sixes, right? They don't sound good when they're dissonant, right? Or like strings. You need three string instruments to sound like a group. And you could do 1 and 2/3 or 1 3 5 or whatever. My point is that that's what harmony is. That's literally what it is. So I know this video was kind of long-winded, but hopefully this will give you the tools for you to learn it more. I highly encourage you to study jazz guitar and jazz keyboard. That if you can play jazz keyboard, you could make beats for days. You can do anything you want, basically. And if you do jazz guitar, well, you can still write songs, but it's it's not as good as a keyboard for arranging, obviously, because you're limited with the guitar, because you only have 6 strings. On the keyboard, you have the whole chingadera, and you could really see it. But nonetheless, learn both. I'm learning both, and I'm still learning both. I've taken lessons before, but I'm still like getting my chops up and stuff like that. And yeah, pretty much, guys. And then the next step is, while you're learning this stuff, pick out a songbook, pick out some songs that you like, and learn to play the songs on an instrument and sing along, play the songs, and build a repertoire of songs that you can play by heart and play by ear, and then do some cover songs. That's a great way to learn. That's the best way to learn, really. And then, like I said, the under the hood stuff. Once you memorize the chords, everything will unlock. Even the hard chords extensions, because what you're really doing is you're just doing a basic chord on top of another basic chord, And when you're as a pianist, as a keyboardist, you'll see that real easy. Like, oh, I'm just stacking these chords together and I could get some crazy chords. Yeah, pretty much. On the guitar, you can't really do that. You got to put your fingers like this, and you know what I mean? So that's why I'm giving you what I advised you. Okay, guys. Well, I hope that helps. If you like this video, give me some thug love. You know, some like, comment, subscribe. Check out my music. Tell me what you think. I really appreciate the feedback. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye. Who man?